Posse Packast Nation. Welcome to another episode of Grossi, Grant. It's been so long, Ryan Grant.
So long.
People don't even know. They don't even know. But look at this reunion that's going on. Look, we got Ryan Grant back in the virtual building. Tom Grossi with a more cluttered desk. I mean, the people have been asking for you, Ryan Grant. They've been, especially during this entire offseason, which was really low key. There was no drama, not a lot to talk about. It really wasn't a lot, but they were asking about you, and we got you back, and I'm so happy for you to be back. And how has your offseason been, my friend?
It's been really well. It's gone well. A lot of time with my girls, of course. I've had to go back and forth between Mexico because of the projects, but no complaints. As you know, I was in Wisconsin.
Yes.
I guess 2 weeks ago now. And that was great. A week and a half ago, whatever. That was phenomenal to do that. The
tailgate,
the modified tailgate tour. I don't even know what they call it, bus ride or whatever. And that was good to be able to catch up with guys like James Jones, Nick Collins, and Morgan Burnett. We had a blast. I forgot how funny Morgan was, so that was great to be reminded of that. And it was good, man. Just to it's funny. Most of the time, we were like talking about like some ball stuff. We might have talked a little bit about what's going on in the organization, just a little bit. But most of the time, we were talking about our kids.
That's awesome.
That was really interesting and great to see, because we were really just talking about like how we parent and what our mentality is in regarding helping our kids with sports.
I love it.
And how, everybody thinks like, well, we're trying to go for we want them to be this, we want to be that. And it really not that at all. It was really around like, we just want our kids to just compete and just work hard.
Sure.
Like get better, compete, do your best, and everything else is fine. So it was good. It was a really good time. And, being a part of it and doing that and showing love to the fans is always great.
And I know I talked to you about this while we were off air, but this is something that I will be advocating for once again. In that last year, in the middle of Grant Grossi, we talked about how the Packers social media team was not wishing you happy birthdays, but this will be something that the Grossi Posse will be advocating for once again. We have more numbers on our side now. So Packers, obviously there's been no personnel issues in the past, with former players. So this is something to just make sure that you continue that tradition and just, keep it a drama-free zone, because that's how it's been for basically all of Packers history. So we just want to continue that time-honored tradition. Yeah,
I think that a little disappointing in the past that they didn't do that, especially considering their track record of just honoring forever, former players and really looking out for the guys that contributed to. So, but I will say that I'm hoping that the relationships that I built with the media team over that week that I was in Wisconsin, we get at least a shout out. I don't need a post, just a shout out, just something.
Just shout out. Just like, hey,
Ryan Grant's birthday. A shout out. Like, hey, man, guess whose birthday's today? You know what I mean? Oh, Ryan Grant.
Ryan Grant. Done.
No big deal.
That's it. Or, you know what? You could take the lazy route and just be like, HBD, Ryan Grant. That's it.
Boom.
That's
easy.
3 letters and a tag.
Just give me put it on the story. Doesn't need a post. Like,
now
just put it on the
that's
story,
even lesser.
Which means it expires. They don't even have to know that you put it on.
There's no proof of it. That's when we screenshot it.
Exactly. So
absolutely.
We'll see how it goes though. But I actually think I did put my best foot forward. So
I know you did. I know. I'm excited to see the fruits of our labor. Now, let's talk about something because unfortunately this offseason was not relaxing. And I know that we weren't doing our show during the draft, because good God, if we were, that would have been something. But ever since draft night,
did you live stream during the draft?
Oh, I live streamed during the draft, Ryan Grant, and we had 11,000 people in there. And I gotta say, not a lot of people talking about the draft. not a lot of people talking about it. Talking about a little something else.
Some other things,
something. And like I mentioned to you, during this entire saga, which it was a saga, I kept thinking back to our conversations that we had last year on air and off air in terms of like player relations, how the player perspective and all of that stuff. And to kind of see this unfold in the media, which was just a firestorm of just rumors and clickbait and a whole bunch of stuff, speaking for other people and all that great stuff. And then on top of that, like, just to see how it 100% divided the fan base, because media was like, hey, you need to choose. You're either pro player or you're pro organization, which I was like, nah, I don't want to do any of that stuff because that's just nasty. So
tactical, very tactical.
Yeah, 100% and very intentional. In terms of like, from your perspective, what was it like to kind of see this all unfold this past off season and just kind of like watch things burn? Because that's essentially you're like,
funny.
This is
I
what
think
you
that
get for not wishing me a happy birthday.
I know, it's like, well, you reap what you sow. No, I initially I think it caught everyone off guard, just unless you're literally, like in maybe DeVante's the only one that might maybe didn't get caught off guard, maybe just because of the amount of conversations he might have with Aaron. I think that, just in how it got reported by Adam and just in the general, how things, because it got like the night before, right? It was like the night before.
It was the night of the draft. Yeah. And then he came back a week because everyone thought it was like, oh, it was this breaking news. And then the week later, he's just like, oh, no, it was a culmination of information.
Yeah, then I heard that and it was like, oh, this is not like just one little breaking story. It was like culmination. So yes, I do remember that. Okay. So yeah, initially it was like a, whoa. Yeah. But then when you start to think about it, and as a former player, and I started to talk with some other guys, all of us were kind of on, it was like, oh, nah, this is what we've all been talking about. This is basically him being a conduit and voicing, of course, his opinion and his thoughts and his quote unquote frustrations, but based upon the perspective of many guys on, numerous situations. And just, I think people automatically thought that it was like, oh, this just happened. And it's like, no, this is years of him seeing what's occurred and not being a part. And I use an example. I tell people that, I was like, listen, we understand that, from a personal aspect, the front office, you have to have a philosophy on how you do things.
Sure.
Like anything, you have to have fundamentals and how you go about doing things. I think that that's fair. But if you are fortunate enough to have an employee that outperforms the entire organization, this has nothing to do with players. You have an employee that outperforms the entire organization for about a decade. You would think that from a business aspect, you would take into account that employee's perspectives on things when they're playing at such a high level. They're performing. I don't want to use playing because I think that limits it to when they're performing from a job aspect at such a high level that how they perform affects everything else that comes in that building and out of that building. You would think that recognizing the magnitude of one's performance and perspective, what that can have, and taking it into account along with your philosophy.
Of course.
We're not saying literally allowing that employee to run the helms. Yeah, that's not what you're saying. But we're saying if you're not taking that into account, and many other people have the perspective that that's not happening, it's not just solely him, that's a problem. And at some point in time, I think that, we're, as humans, when things work out, we become confirmation biased. And we've gotten fortunate that, we did win in 2010.
Yep. And
not so much of that philosophy has changed in regards to how things were handled because it worked, and trying to repeat. It doesn't bode for I think a positive long-term relationship. And as you see, this is very much, it was layered and compounded over years. This was not, by no means, not a one-time thing. And we knew it. So this is why, if you listen, talk about solidarity with guys and players in regards to the perspective of A-Rod.
Sure.
Didn't hear too many guys saying, I don't really know. No, you heard a lot of guys saying, yeah, we get it. We understand.
Well, one of the things was during this offseason, because like there was a lot of radio silence, right? Like Rodgers went on ESPN for a hot second, like mentioned about like culture and people, but other than that, like relatively stayed silent. The big thing that came out, oh, and then of course you had the front office saying like we're committed to Rodgers for 2021 and beyond, and blah blah blah. I think the biggest piece that came out, and it was right on the money, was from James Jones, because he came out and flat out mentioned how other people left, and mentioned it way before this press conference, and was saying that, it's not necessarily Rodgers' issue with who's getting brought in the building, like a Jordan Love. Yeah. It's more of who's leaving and how they're leaving. And
how they're treating core guys, man. And yeah, you got leaders. He didn't, and unfortunately, he didn't name any running backs on that list of guys. But that's because we're a dime a dozen, so I understand it.
Yeah,
I forgive you, A-Rod. Our position can come and go like revolving door. But yeah, it's kind of like, you got guys that are leaders, guys that were willing to take pay cuts to literally just be a part and be a core towards helping the squad win.
Sure.
But sticking to philosophy kind of falls in line with, when I said we knew what the Packers were going to do.
Yeah.
After bomb, 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 and then it would be, here you see you, nice to later, So there was no surprise on our end from a sense of what it was. I think most guys, when looking at the situation and really understanding, once it was voiced that it's not about the team, it's not about the players, and it is more front office, that's where the disconnect is. We knew exactly what it was. Like a lot of former players knew that, because it's been issues. Sure. There has been issues. And it's, listen, at the end of the day, for the fans, we have to frame this. We all love, you know what I mean? Everything that we love are experiencing Green Bay from a playing aspect and aspects of, and I do think that Green Bay is a top tier organization in regards to many aspects and how they do things. Absolutely. Like, I think they're one of the stable, but it does not mean, like anything, that they are not susceptible to criticism and cannot be held accountable for certain things that are not done in a manner that should be. And, especially when you're looking for a particular standard. It's not just, you're not just looking for a particular standard of play, you're looking for a particular standard in how you handle things. And that's some of the issues when, like, we're not all prima donnas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not all prima donnas. And in certain times, when you hear a culmination of guys voicing certain things and little things that say, hey man, this didn't sit well, or hey man, this didn't sit well, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You start to take those things into account. So, and at the end of the day, he's been here how long? He's been there longer than anybody else. So longer than anybody else. So he's seen the culmination of stuff. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, like, and he did his homework, right? Like he talked about like how he reached out to like all these different former players and like, got their experiences before he was like, approaching the front office with this. And I think one of the things that stood out to me, because, Murphy wrote in his, like in the beginning of this, that it has divided the fan base. And I agree, as someone who is interacting with the fan base every day, it's either Rodgers is a diva or it's like the front office is, so in the wrong and should just hear him out, what have you, right? There is that split. And I think that what was interesting to me, there was a lot about that press conference that was interesting, but the big thing is Rodgers like flat out said, like, I'm not asking for anything more than other QBs have gotten in the league, right? You look at a Drew Brees, you look at a Tom Brady, right? And Bruce Arians is like, hey, what receivers do you like in the draft? And even if they don't go with the guy that Brady, like, said, like, I like that guy, it's showing what Rodgers was talking about. Like, it's a respect thing. And it's showing that like my opinion matters. And
take it into account, take me into consideration based upon who I am and what I bring to the table. Yeah. Which seems like common sense.
It seems
like it would be very reasonable but also in the best interest of what you're trying to accomplish.
Sure.
Like, because then if you can't just be a machine. Like, the human aspect of you have to actually be willing to and able to adapt.
Yeah.
Like you're dealing with people. You're dealing with, you know what I mean, with a social culture of individuals who have to work together on a team. like we used to always say as players, if you have a coach that you feel like has your back, whether you agree with the coach or whether, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be your buddy or anything, but if you believe that he has your back, you're going to run through a wall for them. But if you believe that there's a disconnect and this person is, he doesn't care, he's out for himself, then guess what? I'm not going to lay it on the line for this dude if I feel like he might sell me out or he might, go turn the other way. And that's the same instance. So, I 1000%, I think that what Tom did last year in Tampa, and going to an entirely different conference and basically voicing what he wanted, and getting it, and then winning, empowered a lot of QBs, from Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, all these guys saying, you know what? Nah, I'm good. Like, we got to figure this out because, Russell, I'm tired of getting hit.
Yeah.
Sean, I just went out, and A-Rod saying, yeah, we're like, listen, I'm the best. And there should come a level of respect. It is interesting to hear, I would like to hear the fans' perspective around the diva aspect, because I understand it, but it's almost like I understand it from a literal, like, naivete, like ignorant aspect of you just don't understand and don't know, but not from a legitimate, like, it's almost like that's where the disconnect of, like, the moment that they look at, there's automatically a perspective of, you get paid X amount of dollars, and getting paid a certain amount of money immediately, like, you should shut your mouth.
You don't get to
there
talk
should never
anymore.
be, there should never be. And it's like, what? And the reason why I get paid these X amount of dollars is because I actually perform at a high level and market value. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like
Sure.
There's a reason why the whole league, we all, the league makes a certain amount of money. It's because the league makes a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's just interesting.
I think it's like it's rooted because, as I've even mentioned, and I think, and you just alluded to it too, like the way the Packers have done things has led to success, right? Like they have been a very successful organization. Could they have been more successful? Sure, maybe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. But at the same time, like the way that they have done things, that whole mentality of like, it's better to release a player like, a year too early than a year too late kind of thing. That's kind of been the mantra, right? You look at like a Brian Bulaga, a Jordy Nelson, like you look at all these guys that they've let go, a Clay Matthews, even people who are willing to go and like take a pay cut. It was like, no, because like we need to move on. And I get it from a standpoint of, right, it's a macro level decision where it's like, hey, got to worry about the future of the franchise, not just about these individual players. However, to your point, when you're talking about a guy who's been there since 2005, and as Rodgers said, people are coming to Green Bay to play with me because they can win a championship.
I'm the best. I'm literally, you're like, you can't argue. He's like, I'm the best. And people are, so you, at that point, yes, you have to say, yes, we're building for the franchise. At the end of the day, the franchise has to think long-term in regards to always being successful.
And that's why Jordan Love gets drafted. Exactly.
So whatever, that's fine. Yeah. But you also, in the same breath, recognize, hey, we're very special. We're very fortunate that for the last 32 years, we've had something so special that teams are looking to get forever.
Every year.
Every year. You've had it for 32 years, and you're not actually adapting in that moment to say, hey, okay, I know we are looking for the long term, but in this moment, we do have something special, and maybe we adjust a little bit in the now.
And that's what I think it is, right? I think that there is this blowing up or over exaggeration of what he's asking for, because he's not asking for personnel control. He's not asking for that. He's literally saying like, dude, like if you want to sit down with me and you're going to cut Jake Kumerow, like just say like, hey, we're thinking about letting Jake Kumerow go. We'll hear yours. And then you know what? After you hear him, you might still let him go.
Yeah, you might still let him go.
And
doesn't mean taking someone into consideration and taking them into account doesn't mean that you do what they say.
Sure.
It literally means that you hear them out, you hear their perspective, you voice your perspective, and then you might come to some sort of agreement, or you might move on. But there's a level of respect in that.
I think the thing that you touched on, and something that I kind of want to ask you about. So I'm going to switch for a hot second, but it's related to DeVante Adams, right?
Yeah.
So DeVante Adams had his own press conference in which he said flat out, like, if they brought back Rodgers, like, would he take a hometown discount? And he said, no, like, we're not going to do that. He said, I want to be the highest paid wide receiver in the league because I've earned that. Right.
Absolutely.
And people's response to that, some people, like some of the fan base, the response to that was like, whoa, like what happened to the loyalty? And I think that as you mentioned, like loyalty from the business office like perspective is bought via compensation, right? It's we're giving you X amount of dollars. So because of that, you're going to play football for us until you either are not reaching that level anymore, or we just cut you because,
or we don't see that. It has nothing. Listen,
correct.
One, they're not mutually exclusive. So one has nothing to do with the other necessarily.
Correct.
And they're not binding.
Correct.
Which is so weird to me that fans still don't understand. It's like
they can just cut you like
in any time. I took a pay cut the year after I got hurt. We won the Super Bowl and I got it. And they were like, yeah, we paid you a bunch of money to basically while you were hurt. And I was like, yeah, but I earned that money because I ran for what I ran for.
Correct.
And you sent me that contract. So I hit my escalators.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I didn't earn the money you paid me, but clearly because I got hurt, they felt like, oh, so I took a pay cut.
Sure.
And yeah, it's interesting. Like DeVante is the best in the game. He deserves to be paid like the best in the game. Yeah. And that to me, this is why if you look at players, all players say, yo, get your money. Because at the end of the day, what this can do in regards to your livelihood, your family changing, like there are so many players that are Hall of Fame guys, and we're loyal, and have nothing.
Yeah, because and there's such a limited window where you can like actively earn that money, right?
Yeah, and it's like what loyal? Like people have to understand, like loyalty is not how it goes.
But it's
most
always,
of the time we don't choose to choose the team that drafted us.
Sure.
And they're only loyal. Your loyalty and your perspective is based upon the type of experience that you've had. Plain and simple.
That's very true. And it's also, if we're talking loyalty, it can't be a one-way street too, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's what I said. It's not binding. It's like, what are you loyal to?
Yeah, like you can't say like DeVante Adams, you need to be loyal to the Green Bay Packers, and at the same time, back the Packers when they're not loyal to one of their players, right? Because like it doesn't work like that. So I think there just needs to be
especially when there's context of like guys over years, like you just hear guys saying, "Yo, yeah, not really fun." Are you trying to say that unless some fans have the perspective that immediately professional athletes, just in general, all prima donnas and divas,
sure,
whatever, that's fine. I think there's just a disconnect from a human aspect. Like we didn't become who we are by being divas and all prima donnas. You know what I mean? But we worked really hard, like supremely, like hard at what we've done and continue our craft. We're very professional. A lot of us were professionals in our craft when we were little kids, in our mentality of how we went about things. But they believe that we owe them something, and I think that it's because they see this entity versus the human, and then it's a really interesting thing. It's almost like the idolization then becomes like the condemning aspect.
Sure.
And the same point and reason why they idolize athletes is the same thing that actually will make them deter athletes, anything well, because the moment they love us because of our, oh my goodness, our greatness and what we do.
So good,
but then when we actually show our separation in the sense of, no, I'm actually not like I am great and I know my value.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Stay in your lane, buddy.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. No, this is my lane. And and the reason why I know this is my lane, because you praise us. You know what I mean? There is that. So if there's not like an honesty on both ends in regards to that relationship, then you're always going to see a disconnect like that. But I'm always on the side of the players, and I don't, even if I'm one of those guys that even if I believe that a guy is overpaid, good for him. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm all for, because get your money, and like to me, you deserve whatever you can get. So when people say, "Oh, you don't deserve it," I'm like, did he get it? I'm like, he deserves it then.
Yeah, because then in that case, then you're like, well, then the front office shouldn't have paid him. Like, right? Like
exactly. So it's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah,
that's on them.
So
Yeah.
You can't, and then feel a certain way.
So real quick before we kind of like wrap things up, because we could talk for an hour and a half at least. But in terms of one of the things that Rodgers said was that it was an effort to kind of like usher in some change, right?
Yeah.
He wanted to be used as potentially a recruiter. He wanted to be kind of just like have some like, hey, like this is what I see, in terms of personnel of like just run it by me, or like just get my opinion from it. But it was kind of this theme of like ushering in change. And when Randall Cobb got brought in, that was looked at as a, oh my goodness, like Aaron Rodgers has all this control over personnel. And Goody said two things. One, said that like without Aaron, we're not going and trading for Randall Cobb. And two, like Goody has not given up any personnel control whatsoever. Yeah. So I'm curious to kind of like get your standpoint as a player that has played in Green Bay. You obviously know Aaron and all of that. Do you think that this is going to cause a slight shift in the way the Packers do things? Or is it going to be after Rodgers is gone, it's going to be back to like the traditional business as usual?
I think it's business as usual.
Okay.
And that's one of those situations where nobody's talking about that. We're talking about the now and the fact that you have Aaron Rodgers. You want to talk, why would we talk about how you maneuver from philosophically, from the philosophical level, from a management level on that without Aaron? Who cares? Right now we have Aaron and you want to make the most of what you have. So to me, that is kind of like null and void, and who cares? Like it makes no sense to even like waste energy thinking about how they're going to maneuver post.
Yeah.
Because it's a
dance,
totally different situation. It'll be like literally, like until Love proves that, you're literally going to say, oh, it's a totally different situation. It's not like Aaron every year has been saying this from 2005.
Sure.
Like, hey, I want to be a part. You'd be like, well, prove it that you deserve. You know what I mean? Prove it. And then when he proved it year upon year, he's proved it for a decade. Yeah. So that's what we're saying, But I do personally think it's going to go back to business as usual.
Yeah. I am curious. I mean, we talked about this kind of like off air and how we think that this is going to end, and how the contract, the way that contracts are situated, and how this is kind of coming to a head. Like I've been telling fans, like enjoy this while it lasts, because like I mean the Green Bay Packers could look very different next year, and most likely will look very different next year. So yeah. Just enjoy it, like you said, while you got it.
Yeah, enjoy it. This is what, listen, fans, Pack fans, enjoy it. Just because we've been able to be a part of something special and witness some really phenomenal players. And Aaron, it's very fortunate. And I know it's hard to really experience it and really put it in perspective. But for the last 32 years, the Packers have experienced top 10 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
It's unheard of.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, and I understand that it has not manifested the amount of Super Bowl wins and Super Bowls that you want, but within quarterback play, it has been magnificent and really unfathomable to be able to accomplish that. So enjoy it. Nothing lasts forever. I'm looking forward to guys coming out. This team is very talented, has a lot to there's a lot of people on board that are expecting to step up. So I think it's one of those years that even more appreciate it all because of everything that, the accumulation of things involved on it from the talent level. It would be one of those things that, like, if it was one of the situation regarding Aaron and all that, but the talent level wasn't that, it'd be like, enjoy Aaron and just enjoy watching, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, enjoy this. Has the combination to be something special just because what's the potential of everything going around and moving and stuff like that. So really it's like, when if you knew that things were going to change in any aspect of your life, something that you really loved, you might care a little more in that moment.
Might appreciate it a little bit more.
Exactly. We don't appreciate something until we know it's gone. But now we kind of know that things will be different in some or many capacities. So enjoy it, fans. Because I will. I'm looking forward to it. It's not like one of those like, oh no, I'm looking forward and I'm excited about guys because I think they're going to be playing their butt off.
Oh yeah.
Competing. because guys knows what at stake. And when things are when the stakes are high, it just makes things even more worth it.
Yeah.
As a professional athlete, I will tell you that's the perspective. When the stakes are high, it's like, oh man, it just makes it even more sweeter. So let's go get it. And they'll get after it.
I mean, like, just to close it out, it's like Randall Cobb said it, right? Like, he doesn't care how many catches he gets. He doesn't care like awards. He's there to win a ring, right? He didn't win one. Win. You know, he's
them
there
dudes want to win, man. Yeah.
They want to win.
I know. Cobb wants to.
I don't think anybody can question that dedication on that team by a single player. Like, they are there to win a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
So
they've already performed at such a high level. They know what that is.
Yep.
And yeah.
Now it's time to go get one.
Go get it. Go get it done.
Mr. Ryan Grant, a pleasure as always. Please tell the peoples where they can find you and all the things that you do.
Where you can find me on Twitter. What's my name on Twitter again, man? I haven't done this. Ryan Grant 25. Yeah, Ryan Grant 25 on Twitter. On Instagram, it's Ryan.Grant.
That's the one.
That's it. That's it. Facebook, feel free, but I probably won't respond. Yeah, man. That's it. You can DM me. I get some interesting fan DMs. They try to hit me. I don't give them much, but they hit me asking for the inside scoops. They're like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, who knows?
Well, check out Grossi.
Yeah,
buddy.
Grossi, but
we'll have you back. We'll do this again, bud.
So, yeah, of course, man. We have a good time.
Of course. All right, guys. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. There you go. Yeah.